Jane.
Hi, thanks. Thank you so much, Nikki and Donna, for inviting me to be part of this. I've loved listening in already. Um, so I am a visual artist and a teacher. So I teach at the moment. I'm teaching primary school 3 days a week, and then making my own artwork in the other 2 days. And not so much on weekends. I'm a bit like Louise in that I preserve that time for family. Um, so I find it really hard to narrow myself down because I teach everything. So I teach painting, drawing, textiles, printmaking, all of that. I really love playing with all that myself. So this year I've been doing a lot of mixed media journaling, um, and well, yeah, I started with that, and now I've gone back into a lot more kind of drawing, oil painting again, which I haven't done for years, probably since my kids were born. And what else? I'm all over the shop, but I love expressing through art, and I'm starting to get groups together. So like your Duck and Weave, I've got a little group that I meet with once a month called Gather, Create and Grow. And I think we've got 6 of us, and we just get together and yak about art. And we're actually working through Julia Cameron's book, The Artist Way,
Oh, cool.
together. And it's a nice anchor
Yeah, that's a
for the
good idea.
conversations. Um, so yeah, just starting to get out of just me working on my own, because I loved what you said about having that support, because otherwise it can be so lonely. Because yeah, because I work in schools, I'm surrounded by normal people all the time, and I feel like the odd one out. you know, um, it's it's so important to have that community. So I hope that covers it. So I've
Yeah.
sort of been doing a lot of collaborations and working with fabric in Lobethal. Do you know?
Yep.
Oh, I know Donna does, because
Yep.
that's how I met Donna, doing a workshop there. Um, so we've done a couple of artists in residence projects through school. One with Louise last year, and another one this year with Claire Wildish. So that's been quite um, quite fun to see how other people think and how other people work, and working with children with them. And yeah, so I feel like I'm just immersed in creativity every day, you know. So yeah, that's me.
Brilliant. We started by asking about where are you working? Because I think we're keen to hear
Yeah,
about
so
studios and spaces.
I my space is in the house. Because I'm out at work 3 days a week. I just love being home when I can, and I'm an introvert, and I love working on my own. That solitude is quite important for me to get more deeply into my practice, because I'm with kids. I teach, got 170-ish students, and I'm go, go, go on those 3 days, and I'm at work. When I come home, art is my solace, that's my downtime. So I have a studio in the house, and it's right near the front door. It's not shut off. So I've got my son's gaming set up at the other end of the room, and their bedroom's just over there. So it's quite a communal space, but I've got my own nook, and I keep kind of extending and pushing tables out into the shared space a bit. I've also done a heap of work on my couch this year. So I decided to do 100-day project. Um, and so every day, even after work, I sat down, and I've got that book here. And I just would spend half an hour doing something in my journal. So some nights I was, completely spent after work, but I still sat down with my little art kit, little watercolor kit, pens, um, markers and stuff, and just had to play. And so that kept that thread of creativity going through every day, even though I can only get into the studio here twice a week. So yeah, so that was, and then towards the end of that, I kind of started, rather than just doing pure mixed media, I started drawing my people and my pets. And I started enjoying drawing again, which I hadn't done for a long time because I had I've been I've been on this big journey of opening up creativity. Once I started teaching little ones, they're just amazing the way they tackle these tasks with such enthusiasm and wonder, and I just wanted to bottle that and get a bit of that for myself. So I I had been trained in illustration and realism and drawing and been to Central and done some, little courses in painting, and but that I just felt like I'd gone down a bit of a dead end with that, and it wasn't feeding my soul. It was more I was never good enough. Like it felt like my perfectionist had taken over when I was drawing and painting. So when I started teaching little ones, I just started playing again and went into this whole world of um, intuitive painting and mark making and semi-abstract, and then this art journal, I was sort of working that way, but gradually started wanting to get back into drawing again. So my latest sketchbook is just drawing, and I'm teaching myself to draw because I also found that I wanted to have a bit more representation in my work, because I wanted to say things that I couldn't say purely with abstract, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Yeah. So yes, I'm working at home, sometimes on the couch, sometimes in my little studio. It's only, I don't know, 3 meters wide by 4 long, and just got, so behind me I've got a painting wall my husband made during that first COVID time last year. So I cleared a space and I can stand up against the wall, and these just have got pegs and I just hang them there and I paint against the wall. But I've also got a easel on wheels that I use as well. So it's been really about fitting art into every day and
Mm.
trying to make a little bit here and there, rather than making this grand, daunting prospect of getting into the studio. Just doing a little bit each day to keep
Mm.
it going.
That's
Yeah.
inspiring. I love that little story from Zoe about just keeping it the creativity. I mean, if you're working amongst little kids,
Yeah.
yeah, you're
Yeah.
making and creating with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And coming up with ideas to teach them is a creative thing in itself. When Louise came and worked with us last year, um she came in with an idea of the children drawing plants of conservation significance that were in Bushland Park. That it was a space that was quite badly damaged by the bushfires, and so she came in with that idea. But as we were working with the kids, they were talking about their experiences being up there, because they do bush school up there. So then she went, "Oh, I can get them to draw their stories as well." So when you're working with
Oh,
kids, it's almost like a collaboration in itself. Like, you're not collaborating, sitting down, having a meeting with adults, but you're tuning into their conversations and tuning into their expression, and it feeds different ideas. So,
yeah, I see
yeah,
teaching as a part of my arts practice as well. It's
yeah, yeah.
I think you
And
said that as well when we were chatting before.
the littlest ones really, you know, they inspire me. Year 6, 7s, maybe not so much. Only because that, sometimes it's a struggle to get them over those fears of getting it wrong, and, lack of confidence, and saying they're bored when they're not really actually bored. They're just frustrated and don't want to push themselves out of their comfort zone.
What happens to us? It's
Ah, it's that if I was to do a PhD, which I'm not because I've already done 3 degrees, um, that would be, I see it change. Year 4, year 5, it changes, and it's developmental because they become so much more aware of themselves and peer, and
Mm,
worried about what other people are thinking all the time.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah,
and get
so
squashed.
interesting to see. Yeah,
I might pull up
yeah.
your slideshow so you can talk a little bit about your creative practice.
So now I have to put my glasses on, Nikki.
Okay. I was going to share. James shared a little trick. She said when you don't want to, not comfortable looking at yourself on the screen, she takes her glasses off so that she can't see too well.
I'm just a blurry blob.
So this is your painting wall?
Yeah, yeah. And that's a series that I did. So the beginnings of that were the bushfires 2019 in Lobethal, and that is Bushland Park where our children go and do bush school.
Oh, I
But
can
I've
see
also led art retreats up there. So we've got I think we've had 4 schools involved over the years where we pick children who are really keen and at, in art, and they put a portfolio together and they get chosen to go and do art up there for 2 full days with me. And then they paint a canvas themselves, and then we have a little exhibition somewhere in the community of that work. So that place is really special to our students and to me. And I hadn't been back there after the fires because we couldn't have bush school because it was still quite dangerous. Until July last year, I went up there one day after school and just took a whole series of photos and just looked at the regrowth and the light coming through the trees, and it was just beautiful. I get teary thinking about it.
Yeah, I can hear it.
And then in August, I had a studio residency at Fabric during Sala, and I started that just putting together some ideas for those pieces then. So still working in that really expressive kind of intuitive way. So these are just some little works on paper that I started during that weekend residency. And that's when I saw Jane Skeer's work for the first time. I went to that talk that she did there during Sala last year.
Lots of people.
So then these just sat in my studio. I didn't do anything much more with them from that time until about June, July this year. I thought, I'm going to have a go at putting them on canvas. And another thing that influenced me with that was this. Do you know this painting?
No,
Tim
I don't.
Maguire. It's at AGSA.
Ah,
It's called King Lake Panorama.
okay.
So July, I took the photos. August, I had the studio residency. And then in September, I was doing some training with the education people at AGSA. And we went up to one of the galleries, the Chromatopia exhibition. I'm not sure if it's still on. It was in one of the upstairs rooms. And this painting is massive, like it takes up the whole wall. And I just walked in and went, like, just had this really emotional response to that work. And it was Lisa Slade was there. Do you know her?
Yes.
Yeah. And I was like, I was in tears. And she said, oh, well, that's what it's meant to do. Like, it had this amazing emotional impact on me because I felt like I was back at Bushland Park. And it was one of the first times that I'd seen a piece of work that it was beautiful, but it also had that really emotional impact. And I kind of, sometimes I think for art to have an impact, it has to have a really strong message and it has to have all these thoughts behind it. But actually, it doesn't necessarily have to. I don't know, it's hard to put into words. Something beautiful can still have a really huge impact.
That's a good point.
And I'd fought against that, in the past, thinking, if I make pretty artwork, it's not relevant. But that artwork and his work just made me realize that it can be relevant. So,
and I can see that in the work that you just shared with the bushfire. I can now see the bushfire.
Yeah.
As soon as you suggested that it was bushfire related, I could see the glow of that.
Yeah. So you can see that. I think I did send one of the background of one of the canvases. It's like a close up with just the. Now I have to put my glasses back on.
This one maybe.
That one there. So you can see that one. I've just worked really energetically, and I put down blobs of paint and then put baking paper over the top and smeared out the blobs. Then I've painted the trees with seed pods. So the black, I've got seed pods and I've like painted the stalks of the trees and all the black on the ground. And then there are little bits of seed embedded in the canvas, still in the paint. So I created that background in that more energetic kind of intuitive painting way. And then I came back in and used oils quite carefully and meticulously to put the leaves on top and just, do that more representational work. So this is sort of where I'm at now, where I'm combining the intuitive, quick, fun, loose work with the more careful and considered realism. So I sort of feel like it's a bit of a new way of working for me and bringing it all back together,
Oh, I can see it now under the detail in the foreground.
Yeah.
And I think there's probably something very powerful about the new growth around bushfire ravaged.
It's amazing. So I showed those works during Sala, had a show just down the road in a church at the end of my street, actually. And just the response from some of my friends who I've had a friend who lost her house during the fires, and another friend whose house was saved, but her land was, all her trees were gone. And just the emotional response they had to it was really meaningful for me. But it was also not necessarily about the fires, but I had another friend who said she's just been through a marriage breakup, and around the same time she feels like it speaks to her about renewal and resilience as well. So yes, I think,
which is another emotion journey. What's the text that you've got written above?
So that's I made an Instagram post about it, actually.
And sorry, I've only just grabbed you. I've only just started following you on Instagram.
Yeah. So that came out of the work that I was doing with the Artist Way and my group who get together, and just so a bit like Michelle, I grew up in a family that didn't value being an artist, and I've had all these years struggle of thinking, well, why? What's the point of it? So I wrote myself, it's actually in here in this visual diary, a list of why art's important to me.
Oh, cool.
And I made a little Instagram post about it as well. So I think I had just had 10 things, bringing joy. It's the essence of creativity, is the essence of life, making art to connect to nature, stirring emotions, which I've done, putting me into the flow of life and spirit, makes me feel fulfilled and hopeful. So, when we don't do it, we're hopeless. And soothing, celebrating beauty and magic. So I just have those little reminders there for myself. Just to, why it's worthwhile.
Yeah.
Because it is. And not just for artists either. I've got friends who are working through grief and trauma by being creative, and it's just really inspiring to see them embracing that way of expressing and working through those emotions. So
is that in the corner there? Is that the church gallery?
Yeah. So I've had lots of support from it's a church. It still gets used, I think, once a month, but there's an op shop and a studio there as well. So the people that are running that have been just so supportive and helped me get everything ready and set up, and so
is it still
very
on,
lucky?
or was it?
No, it was just the first 2 weeks of August, because I
remember that.
If it was 2 full weekends, and combining that with work, that was plenty. And then I wouldn't have been able to see any other Sala stuff if I had my own show going the whole time, because I was there the whole time. And I did some little come and try sessions there, and it was really amazing.
That's a good idea. You halve up the month so that you can
get
out and
it's
a good trick.
So and I think 2 weekends was enough. I had probably more than 150 people through, and I did 2 come and try sessions with, I don't know, 12 or 13 people in each, and it was plenty, you know, to get it to work out there and just make those connections and share it, and it was lovely.
Yeah, it's a great idea, that participatory stuff that Louise
Yeah.
is.
And then people understand the work more. So we did,
Yeah.
I've been doing a lot of gel printing, and I think I had 10 gel print artworks in there. And people kind of look at it and go, oh yeah, but when they try it for themselves and actually understand the process, it's more meaningful.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
And a great way to engage in printmaking.
Yeah.
The printmaker,
yeah.
it's a great way to introduce it.
Yeah.
Lots of happy accidents.
Yeah. Yeah, and I had little people, some of my little students came with their parents, and a friend who's retired was there. So I had the whole age range and everyone was having a go. It's so good.
Which is great because they get to see that role of the artist realised.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is inspiring. It's like addressing your childhood suppression.
Yeah. Yeah, and my students have been so lucky because we have fabric within walking distance of school. We had a big exhibition with Claire. Claire Wildish came into school and worked with the children, and then she put together an exhibition of all their work. So they've been exhibited. All my students are exhibiting artists.
Okay, so they conceptualize what that means.
Yeah.
Cool. Did you want to talk to any of the images on? This is from your Instagram.
Okay, let me see.
This is your scrapbook base, your sketchbook.
Yeah, it is.
Review.
So all of those are sketchbook, but then that, because I was in a bit of a creative lull. Just I don't know if you've had it too, where you teach and you just give so much to everyone else that you don't have much left for yourself. So I decided to do this 100-day project. I had the criteria where that it had to be at least half an hour. It had to be something to do with nature, but that was pretty open. And then I was just going to play and see where it took me, because I've, like I said before, I've done so much. I don't have a strong thread that runs through my work. And it when you do the work, then it feeds more ideas and you get that momentum going. And that was my goal, is to get that momentum going, and then follow whatever thread I want, because I work, I'm not relying on the art to support me. I can basically do whatever I want, and at times I've resented having a day job, but now I see that it gives me that freedom.
Yeah. So you're not leaning heavily on a practice.
Yeah.
You get to enjoy it.
Yeah. And down the track, I hope to drop some work days and be able to work more in my studio. But at the moment, it's kind of working okay.
That's kind of what I was going to lead you to discuss next, the juggle.
Yeah.
The work-life juggle.
Yeah. So sometimes, after a day of teaching, I don't have much energy at all. Like, I wish I was like Michelle and I just had boundless energy. But so I would come home and just do a little half an hour in my work, in my sketchbook. And so I really do have work days, studio days. I don't put that pressure on myself to do anything too much with my practice on Monday, Tuesdays and Fridays, because I know that those are, low energy evenings. Although I have started going back to life drawing, and that's Monday.
After a day of teaching little kids.
Yeah. But come home, hopefully my dinner's been cooked for me, because my husband works from home and he's pretty good. And so I kind of section off those days as work. I also do my shopping after work, because I think I'm tired anyway. I might as well get that grocery shopping done and out the way, so that then Wednesday and Thursday are completely clear. and I don't have to go traipsing off and spend 2 hours doing chores and errands. I can just keep those days nice and clear for me. And now my kids are older. I'm not having to feed them and water them, and the older one's just started driving, so he's self-sufficient. So I kind of feel like it's the beginning of my time now. Like they'll always need you, but it's not as intense.
And that way of prioritizing your energy level, like to sit the grocery shopping in your low energy level.
Yeah. That's my wife's a good studio morning or a good studio afternoon, bloody trundling around the supermarket.
Yeah. When you can do it on low energy. Yeah.
Yeah. What else do I do? So the thing that came out of the Artist's Way is doing morning pages. So I get up at 6 and do those for half an hour-ish. Some days not so much, just depends. But that just keeps that thread going and keeps me connected to my own thinking and my own ideas. And so many ideas come out of that time. Like I have to have a notepad next to me to write the idea down so I don't keep going off on all these different tangents. So morning pages are really good. Daily art. What else? Getting together with my group. And the juggle. I don't know. But I started actually. That's going to be back to front, isn't it? Or is it?
No,
I just started reading this book by Beth Pickens, and she said when you have unlimited time, that can be daunting as well.
Right.
So I kind of think, well, I've really worked on fitting things into small pockets of time. I think, I had sometimes on a weekend we'll be going out for lunch, or we'd be doing something in the afternoon, and it's 10 o'clock and I'm like, I've got 1 hour. I'm going to just have a play with my gel prints, or just, do something in my sketchbook for that little pocket of time. And that's enough to make me feel fulfilled that I've achieved something that day, or I've tapped back into that creativity, rather than, whinging about not having time and space to do anything. So, yeah.
I think the next question was about, over the COVID experience, what's something new that you've learnt?
It's funny, isn't it? The community, just how important community is, and how important it is to gather together with your people, because being in a job where I'm not with other artists and I feel like the odd one out a lot of the time, I have felt like gathering together, but being able to gather together online is really helpful, because it's perfect for introverts. You can stay in your own space and you're still
Not most
together.
Introverts they wouldn't agree, but I can see,
but I am I guess COVID, I can't say, we've been so lucky here, haven't we? But that lockdown, I kind of liked it, because I didn't have to go out, and I could set my students a task online and they could be working on that, and I could sneak in and do some work in the studio on a work day. But still, be available for them later in the day to check on their work and add comments and stuff. So I think, I guess it's not new learning, but I guess that other people are tuning in. One of the things I did notice early in the COVID time is other people were tuning into how important nature is and how they're finding solace in it. And that's something that I've done the whole time. And I know that Louise and other artists who focus on nature have found that as well. But I think people who live this go, go, go lifestyle have suddenly gone, it is beautiful to be out there and take comfort in the fact that nature just endures and it keeps going no matter what's happening in the human world and all the dramas and politics and stuff. You can go out and just watch the birds or sit in the sun and get that sense of calm and healing from it.
Yeah, you don't have to fly to, you know, the Gold Coast to with crocodiles. You're getting just as much from the park down the road.
Yeah. And I'm really lucky because we live in the hills and I can walk to the end of my street, both ends of my street, and walk into a reserve and just it's beautiful.
That's kind of evident in your work.
Do
you want me to flip to the other images of your work if you feel you
can talk about
on that fascinating,
So I've got so many of those out around our place. So this one was the background was a little abstract that I did, and I think I may have even shown it at Sala in 2019 just as a little abstract. And then that sort of thread started coming through of wanting to represent things more realistically, but also using fairly loose brush strokes. So if you look closely at the bird, it's not super detailed because I've just kind of put the brush strokes in. So combining, again, it's like what I did with the Bushland Park ones, the Resilience series, combining the freedom of the intuitive painting with something a bit more realistic.
Yeah, the feet are almost gestural. They're quite there's quite a lot of freedom around.
Yeah, because one of the things I loved, I did Japanese brush painting. Like I did a course in that years and years ago, and I just loved that really loose but still considered brushwork.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well described.
So I did a little series of watercolors, and they're just wet and wet. And then when they had dried, I drew over the top. So the seeds of that series was one evening after work, I sat down to work in my journal, and I was just completely stonkered. And I just thought, I'll just start putting paint down, like watercolor paint down, and see what happens. And then, you know how you get the little bloom with watercolor and you get those edges forming. I went, oh, that could be trees or that could be clouds. And so once it had dried, I just started drawing back into it with colored pencil and paint pens and stuff. And so that was the precursor to that other little green one. So I did a series of those, and people loved those in the exhibition. And we did, in the come and try sessions, we just did some little wet watercolors on beautiful paper, and that was really fun.
And that's just had a go at that tonight.
Yeah, so fun. And it's inspired because I've got views of trees from every window of the house, and it's kind of a fantasy landscape, but it's pretty much what I see when I look out my windows.
Oh wow.
Just trees on trees, and those layers, going back. And at the moment, it's just changing now, but you know how you get the misty layers of the lighter grey, darker. Yeah. So.
And depending on the season.
Yes.
Quite a different colour scheme.
Yeah. Oh, and that's the first of the Resilience series.
So this is oil?
So this is the acrylic background.
Yes.
And then oil on top.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Because it looks quite luminescent compared to the other pictures you showed.
Yeah. So that was my first little dipping my toe back into oils after. I think I did a bit in 2011. I went and did portrait painting at Central, but once the boys were born, I just didn't want the smell and the the chemicals around the place, because the studio's open and they could have got into anything, but now they're older, I don't care.
Cool.
And I'm just loving getting back into oil painting. So that's kind of my next stage, is I'm going to giving myself 6 months to have a play and start developing those skills again.
How did you set the timeline, or why did you set the timeline?
Oh, just because then that will be the beginning of the next school year, and I don't know. It's good to have a goal,
Yeah.
and that's this year. I entered, I put in the application for my Sala show with no work at all, and I just kept it really open. Like I called it Breath and Brush, and I think I said something about process painting and a meditative approach or something like that, just so that I could, I could do anything as long as I kept that in mind. And I've got that actually up on my board. It just says process, nature, and mindfulness.
Wow.
So if I kept it really broad, so that whatever I produced, it wouldn't matter. So the picture that was in my Sala, in the guide was nothing. I didn't even show that piece. So I had to give myself that goal to have some work ready for a show, because otherwise I just drift on, go, oh yeah, next year, whatever.
Yep.
So if I say 6 months, then I'll just give myself that time.
And
but I don't have
that kind of assists with the whole goal setting and goal reaching muscles.
Yeah.
We run a creative exchange like mentorship program, so and both Donna and I have benefited so much from the goal setting concept that we just want to keep running it, because we get the benefits from it.
And the other thing I did for myself with the goals is I attached a little reward to the goal as well. So it wasn't just the satisfaction of going, oh yes, I did that Sala show, or yes, I did that talk, or I did whatever. I attached, if I do my Sala show and I feel good about it, then I'm going to buy myself a piece of art, and I did that yesterday.
Nice.
So adding just another little layer of reward to the goal.
And this is another
that's another of that series of 3. And I just was thinking yesterday I might make some prints of those, and then, because a few people loved them in the exhibition but couldn't afford the price tag.
But they might, and I would print.
And I'd love to donate the proceeds to Friends of Bushland Park and the CFS. So then it becomes about community again. So this is a gel print, and I was just finding, all the little things that you find on walks, and playing around with stencils and negative shapes. And so I was using natural objects, but then I also made a series of stencils out of laminating film. So that's the hand shape. So I traced around my hand and then used that as a stencil to block out. Just working in layers and having a play and putting texture in, and I think some of them.
Is the plant an actual plant as a
yes
mask?
So I did some with plants, some with feathers. I've just got a whole basket of bits and bobs. So that's the feather one. And then you can sort of see some texture in the background. I had, I wonder if I've got it, my little basket of tricks, seed pods, and drawing with the seed pods and putting texture in with the seed pods as well, like, rolling little, those sorts of things. And then just playing with it.
Nice and messy too.
But so easy to clean up because it's just acrylic. It's not block printing ink or any of that messy stuff. So, and easy to fit into small spaces of time. Like, I'd have an hour-long session and be happy with that. And the layers, like I love working in layers where you do one bit one day and then come back. And I think I said before, I have lots of things on the go at the same time. I'll have piles of paper, that are in half finished states, and then come back to it over time. And I worked on those 3 resilience works all at the same time. So that then one piece doesn't become so precious that you're scared of making a mistake because you've got another thing to work on, another thing to work on.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And I think I loved seeing this picture. I got really inspired.
Yeah, that's just down behind My Law Oval. Do you know My Law at all?
Yes.
Yeah, so there's the cafe that overlooks the oval, and then you go to the back of the oval, the river runs behind there. So I just went out last holidays. I spent 2 weeks just being a full-time artist and loving life, getting up and painting every day.
Like a little mini residency.
Yeah.
And this is your abstract.
And I'm not. I was gonna work those up and put them in the exhibition, but I don't know. I've kind of taken a different direction, so they're still sitting here on the floor. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with those yet. I might paint over them and do something different. I don't know. Who knows? Give myself that freedom.
Look forward to hearing about that.
Yeah, it's kind of fun to just go, well, I don't know what my work will look like next year, because who knows? Just play and see where it takes you.
Yeah, and we were just talking earlier about your work with Vasia yesterday.
Yes.
So
yeah,
this, the unlocking the creative education that I can see that everyone gets from having contact with you.
Yeah, so yesterday I did a talk about junior primary art teaching, but the same threads run through teaching adults, and I'm just about to start a little series of workshops called Get Creative at the end of this month, and getting adults to just play and enjoy and try and take themselves back into that same state that they would have been in when they were 5 or 6 or 7 years old. Because that's really helped me to put myself there and get myself working. And I think, yesterday I was talking with some of the people at the workshop, and they were talking about just horror stories of teachers ripping their work up, or rubbing things out and scribbling and fixing their work. And it's like, oh, don't do that. That's going to leave permanent scars. What you need to do is just encourage and give people that confidence, whether they're 5 or whether they're, so I think the oldest student I've had was in her 70s. Everyone still has that inner desire to create, and they just need to be nurtured with that. So
like the opposite to ripping a piece of paper out from a child.
Yes. Yeah. So a lot of people have that. They still have that desire, but there's that wound or that fear, and perfectionism's in there as well, of trying to make everything perfect, and there's no such thing. So might as well just have a go. Yeah.
I'm just going to put up the screen to open the floor for questions. Has anyone got any questions for Jane? I'm just checking the chat box because sometimes there's some in there. You can leave a chat box question, or someone's written, great to see you, Jane, and hear about your work. That was Zoe, and there's an apology from Di. And Michelle's added, we were talking earlier about getting over ourselves, really, with sharing the screen, and she's written, and really everyone is too involved with themselves to worry about what you're doing. Yeah. We've also put a Google form in there for feedback, which is very valuable. We went from, I think we had 6 makers last year. We've got 12 this year, so hoping it gets bigger and bigger. And there's the link again. Was there anything else you wanted to share, Jane?
No, I think think I've covered everything. Yeah, I just think it's so important to have these opportunities to share and in a supportive community, because I think, I don't know whether it's just me, but in the past there seemed to be more competition and, you know, people not so much, just there's more openness to accepting lots of different ways of working. You know, there was always the fine art way, and if you didn't go to a certain art school, you didn't fit the right mold and all of that sort of stuff. I think we've seen, yeah, and that's what social media has done, is opened up so many more people to share their work on those platforms. So, you know, I just think it's so important to support each other and share stuff, and I love what you're doing, and thank you very much for the opportunity.
Oh,
I'll be
thanks for
tuning
being
in
a
for the
part
rest
of
of the
it.
Arvo. Thank
I mean,
you.
I get to know people as well. Like, there's some of these you've come through meeting through Donna, and so it's a bit of a swap of fascinating people we've met. And like over the last week or so, Donna and I have added names to the who we think we'd like to ask next year.
Yeah.
So that's part of the Google form. So if you've got anyone
cool,
that you'd like to recommend.
Yeah. We didn't really talk about collaboration as much, did we? Because I had thought of a comment, you know, that when you work in a normal environment and you're the only artist, when you do get together with artists, collaboration is so easy. Like, you just spark ideas off each other. You know, working with Louise and working with Claire Wildish last year and this year, you just sit together and you start to spark those ideas. And when you're in it, you kind of take it for granted, but you don't realize that not everyone thinks the way we do. Do you know what I mean?
And I totally know what you mean. I mean, I sort of came out of education myself and didn't realize how much I enjoyed hanging out with artists.
Yeah.
You know, because I was hanging out with teachers all day.
Yeah. Sorry.
And it's not just collaborating that's easier. It's kind of everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And I didn't really understand that until we had a meeting with Fabric to work on this Dream Big project we did with Claire, and my principal was there, and she was telling some other people about it afterwards, and she said, oh, it was just so great to see these amazing brains. And I went, oh, okay. You just don't think that what we do is special until you see someone else's view of what we do.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
And
like, we've still got like 10 minutes. I think I didn't ask you about biggest influences.
So sorry, my headphones have just gone flat.
I can still hear you okay though. Whoops, we lost you. She's gone. Wow. Well, it's gone really well so far. I'm used to that happening all the time.
Let me just, sorry.
That's fine. It's expected in a Zoom conference. We've got a nice freeze of you.
Oh.
Can I
we can you wanted to speak, Guy?
I just want to commend Jane on her work. I've been really interested in what she's done.
Yeah, we're pretty fascinated.
Yeah.
Oh, there you are. I'll spotlight you. No, it's not playing ball.
So can you hear me again?
Can now.
Cool. Sorry about that.
That's all right. You stop. Oh no, you're right.
So influences, I guess, everything. Like what isn't an influence? You just see it everywhere, don't you? Like in nature, and because teaching, you kind of have to be exposing the kids to lots of different artists, and when you do that, you see good work everywhere. And I'm not a snob about any style of artwork, because it's all got value. You just have to look into it. So nature, other artists, I love listening to podcasts with artists, talking with painters. Do you listen to that one?
No.
Oh, it's a cracker. It's Australian, and
Is
it's
this the one that was mentioned earlier? Was this the podcast?
Oh, I don't know, Maria. So it's just talking with painters, and the logo's dark blue, and it's all
Okay.
Australian artists. It's fantastic. So I'll have that on while I'm working. Yeah, I love it. And I've always got stacks of art books and books about creativity, and so there's inspiration everywhere.
What was the book that you held up earlier?
I've just got this from the library. So if you have a library card, and you can get it from Make Your Art No Matter What by Beth Pickens. And she also wrote one called Your Art Can Save Your Life, I
cool.
think. Yeah. So I'm always on the lookout for creativity books, because I like, for me, but also sharing it with students.